Well, welcome to the 700 Club. Tropical storm Idalia is moving through the Carolinas today after leaving a trail of flooding and destruction throughout the southeast. Up to 500,000 people lost power in Florida.
Well, even though the storm wasn't as damaging as was feared, the high winds still destroyed homes, sent debris flying, and the rains turned streets into rivers. George Thomas brings us the story.
Idalia made landfall on Florida's west coast as a dangerous Category 3 storm with maximum sustained winds near 125 miles per hour. Those winds blowing off roofs and snapping tall trees and stop signs. Some roads in northern Florida were briefly impassable with downed power lines strewn across streets. In Tallahassee, the Florida governor's wife posting this picture on social media of a 100-year-old oak tree falling on the governor's mansion. Casey DeSantis and her 3 children were home at the time, but she says thankfully no one was injured. Meanwhile, the storm surge from Idalia inundating hundreds of businesses and leaving entire neighborhoods submerged in water. This was the scene in Crystal River, Florida. Drone footage showing widespread flooding. County sheriff officials there using rescue airboats to evacuate residents trapped by high waters. And even beyond Florida, Idalia was a harrowing experience for some.
Holy that car's flying!
In Goose Creek, South Carolina, a motorist capturing this moment as a tornado sends a car flying through the air. Thankfully, no serious injuries there. Still, residents from southwest Florida to North Carolina breathing a sigh of relief after Hurricane Idalia left less damage than feared.
Just thanking God every minute that, well, we're still here and, this stuff is nothing as long as everybody's okay.
Some communities along Florida's Gulf Coast face a long cleanup ahead.
We're going to go with it and have a good attitude about it. We can rebuild all of this.
In Perry, a small mill town located just inland from Florida's Big Bend region, where Idalia came ashore, folks were already out cleaning debris shortly after the storm's passing.
I think the city really came together. I see it in a lot of people helping people, a lot of people reaching out to each other, strangers, people I've never seen before in my life. They everywhere just trying to make sure everybody else okay.
Even so, Idalia remained a serious threat after racing through Florida, moving up the southeast, bringing storm surge, damaging winds, tornadoes, and flooding rain to parts of Georgia and the Carolinas. And Operation Blessing teams hunkered down in Valdosta, Georgia during the storm, plan to stage their relief operations in Hermosa, Florida, working with their relief network partners and a local church there to hand out essential supplies.
There is needs for food currently, there is needs for water, there is needs for basic necessities that you would think that you would already have with you, but currently they don't have any.
George Thomas, CBN News.
Well, if you want to be a part of the Operation Blessing relief effort, you can give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. You can write to us at CBN Center, Virginia Beach, Virginia, 23463. You can text OBDR to 71777, or you can call us, 1-800-700-7000. Just say, I want to give to the Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund. In other news, while Idalia brought heavy rains to Florida, a lack of rain is creating problems for one of the most famous economic landmarks in the world. John Jessup has that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Thanks, Gordon. The Panama Canal is a lifeline for global trade, and now it's facing one of its most challenging periods due to severe drought. CBN contributor Chuck Holton has that story from Panama.
It's a sight not often seen. Over 130 ships anchored off the coast of Panama, waiting their turn to transit the canal. This congestion is a result of a severe drought affecting Panama due to the El Nino weather cycle. The effect on shipping has been significant, leading to ship weight restrictions and fewer daily crossings. That means ships wait for 10 days or more, or are forced to offload weight to get through the canal. The Panama Canal administrator points out the challenge of trying to reduce the more than 50 million gallons of water the canal uses every day.
The fact is that water variability is different. The rainfall pattern is different, and now it is necessary to adjust to a reality that is not necessarily solved by a reservoir.
So consider this. About 40% of all the products that are produced in Asia
and sold in the United States transit through the Panama Canal. And the canal essentially runs on rain. That's a good thing here in Panama because we get about 12 feet of it on average every year. Last year we had 19 feet of rain. Even yesterday we had about 6 inches. But the problem with the canal is that it doesn't have a way to store that excess water. And so when they get too much rain, they have to just release it out into the ocean. And that doesn't do any good, especially in a year like this when we're down about 50% in our annual rainfall totals. That creates a big bottleneck for shipping going through the canal, and it could create big problems later on for the global supply chain.
The depth, the severity of this crisis is really atypical. It is very high. So we think that between now and September 30th of next year, we have to operate with draft restrictions.
Panama's government worries continued dry conditions could be a disaster, since tolls from the canal make up more than 75% of its annual revenue. Morales maintains the canal will continue to be profitable, though.
International trade will always continue, so we are going to be here and produce many benefits for the country, from environmental protection to the transit of ships. We are going to be an example of economic success with social and environmental responsibility.
The height of the rainy season doesn't arrive until October, and if drought-like conditions continue, the U.S. may see further disruptions to the supply chain. From Panama, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Thank you, Chuck. Now to political news here at home. New concerns over the health of Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, the Republican senator, appearing to freeze during a news conference in his home state of Kentucky Wednesday.
What are my thoughts about what?
Running for re-election in 2026.
Did you hear the question, Senator? Running for re-election in 2026?
As you can see, their aide stepped in to help out after that long pause, eventually leading McConnell away after he took a few more questions. This is the second time in just over a month the GOP leader has frozen during a press conference. Well, in Tennessee, state lawmakers ended a special session Tuesday on gun laws, spurred by the deadly shooting last March at a Nashville Christian school. While the Republican-led State House did pass a few measures, critics argue it didn't go far enough to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. Charlene Aaron has that story.
Protesters at the Tennessee State House voiced frustration and anger as lawmakers abruptly concluded the special session on public safety with little significant action.
They saw the bodies. Kids. Massacred by high-capacity automatic rifles. Do you know what that does to a child's body? Because the 9-year-olds know what it does to a child's body.
Republican Governor Bill Lee called the session in response to the Covenant Christian School shooting, which left 3 children and 3 adults dead. Despite protests, the governor expressed a hopeful outcome.
4 of our bills passed. Significant funding was focused on issues that matter to public safety. Improved the background check system, attacked human trafficking, made access for safe storage. We funded mental health resources across the state. We made progress.
Sarah Shoup Newman's 6-year-old son is a student at the school. She told CBN News he and other students have been left traumatized.
We're watching our families with friends with kids in, especially the 3rd grade and the kids upstairs that are just reeling in trauma. Their childhoods are just ripped apart. There's pieces of those kids they'll never get back. Not to mention all the families that forever lost their children.
Newman, who helped start the nonprofit Covenant Families for Brighter Tomorrows, is disappointed lawmakers didn't do more to protect students from potential future gun violence. For months, her group rallied for better gun storage measures and extreme risk protection orders, also known as red flag laws. In the end, the Republican supermajority couldn't muster enough support to even debate the idea.
There are some that, either refused or just don't see it as an urgent action, and we just can't understand that. This is urgent. This is a public health crisis.
As the week-long debate played out, tempers flared, leading to a brief physical confrontation between GOP House Speaker Cameron Sexton and Democrat Representative Justin Pearson, one of two state lawmakers expelled earlier this year. The two accused each other of shoving within moments of the House chamber adjourning the special session.
And he started to yell and scream as though we had done something. Representative Jones was pushed by Representative Sapicki as well. We're holding signs and demanding that we protect kids and not guns.
Security put their hand on the back, which knocked me forward, and I can't remember, there's a photographer, when you look at it, that was to my left. And so we moved right, and then at that point we keep walking, and then Representative Pearson that comes in and pops me from the right side.
Meanwhile, Newman applauds lawmakers who stood with Covenant parents as they continue fighting for greater school safety, even if that means voting those who refuse to change out of office.
If they are not able to do that in a way that represents the people, they do not deserve to have their seats.
Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
I don't know.
Yeah. Powerful reporting, Gordon. I can't even begin to imagine the trauma that those kids are facing and will continue to face.
Trauma of all the mass shootings that have happened in the United States. And from where I'm sitting, you have to have red flag laws. When you look at the Virginia Tech shooting, when you look at the Colorado movie theater shooting, what could have happened if the psychiatrists who those people were seeing had the ability to red flag them, to say, you shouldn't have a weapon. Currently, under our mental health laws, you get committed if you are considered to be a danger to yourself or to others. But unfortunately, that's a very high standard. You can't just say, well, they're disturbed. You have to have something active happening or about to happen. And then that commitment is only for a short period of time. But if a mental health professional can say, we need to flag this person, they can't be able to buy a gun. If they have a gun, they shouldn't be able to keep it. If you have that on the books, then a lot of these mass shootings go away. Today, our mental health system is in crisis, whether it's COVID or the stress of American society, our politics, whatever you want to blame, it's happening. So let's take preventative measures to make sure it doesn't result in school children being killed.